I didn't panic when I saw the birthday cake sitting in the middle of my room at midnight. I panicked when I saw the extra candle that wasn't supposed to be there, still dripping fresh wax, and still warm like someone had just blown it out seconds before I walked in. You know how your brain tries to explain something before your fear does? That's exactly what mine did. For a few seconds I convinced myself this was a prank, or maybe I forgot something earlier, or maybe I was just tired. That's what I kept telling myself as my eyes tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Because the cake wasn't the same cake my family cut for me downstairs. The icing was wrong. The shape was slightly off, too smooth like it hadn't been touched by human hands. And that candle, that extra candle, it wasn't one of ours. I knew every candle we bought. They were in a pack of 10 thin red ones, because my mom joked that I didn't need anything fancy. But this candle was thick, short, old-fashioned, the kind they used decades ago. And the wax dripping down its sides wasn't red or white. It was gray, ashy, almost like melted bone. But the worst part wasn't the candle. It was the plate the cake sat on. A plate I had never seen in my life. Oval-shaped, cracked along the rim, with dark stains that looked too much like fingerprints burned into the ceramic. My throat tightened. My skin went cold. I remember whispering, "Who put this here?" Even though I already felt the answer pressing against the back of my mind. Someone had been in my room. Not earlier. Not hours ago. But recently. Minutes ago. Maybe even seconds. The air still held the faint smell of smoke. Not the sweet smell of birthday candles, but something heavier. Something bitter. Like burnt hair. My phone buzzed on the desk, and the sound nearly made my legs give out. It was a birthday text from a friend. Nothing scary. But even the vibration felt wrong. Like it didn't belong in the same room as this thing sitting in the center of my floor. The shadows in my room didn't feel still anymore. The corners looked deeper. Almost stretched. Like something had stepped back into them and was waiting for me to make the next move. And here's what made my stomach drop completely. There were 2 candles on the cake before. 2 small red candles, the ones from the pack we bought, stuck in the cake from my family celebration. But those? They were gone. Not melted. Not broken. Gone. As if someone had plucked them out with their fingers and replaced them with that one gray candle still releasing a thin wisp of smoke. I stared at it for so long that I didn't realize tears were forming in my eyes. I wasn't sad. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was terrified in a way my body didn't know how to express. Because someone didn't just walk into my room. Someone didn't just leave a cake. Someone didn't just light a candle. Someone celebrated my birthday without me. Someone stood in this room in the dark in silence long enough to prepare something, and place it exactly where I'd find it. My parents had gone to sleep after we finished celebrating earlier. Nothing fancy, just a store-bought cake, a movie, and my mom insisting on taking a dozen pictures even though I begged her not to post anything embarrassing. My younger sister had gone out with friends, planning to come home late. I didn't mind. I didn't expect anything more from the night. After everyone went to bed, I stayed awake in my room the way I usually do. My desk lamp cast that warm golden glow I always liked, the one that made my room feel almost unreal, like a calm pocket separate from the rest of the world. I had music playing softly from my phone, something slow and relaxing. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt, how perfectly ordinary the moment was. I was sitting at my desk scrolling through birthday messages, replying slowly, half smiling at the ones that came from friends I hadn't talked to in months. I had a half-finished soda beside me, condensation dripping down the can. My window was cracked open just a little, letting in the cool spring breeze. It was one of those nights where the air feels cleaner than usual, lighter, almost refreshing. And I felt good. Not excited, not sad, just calm. The kind of calm that makes you stop and appreciate the simplicity of life. There was nothing strange about the house either. The hallway outside my room was silent, the faint hum of the fridge drifting up from downstairs. Our dog Milo was asleep in the living room like he always was. Everything felt predictable, steady, safe. I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't thinking about anything weird. I wasn't even in a horror movie mindset. Just a normal guy ending a normal birthday night, feeling a quiet kind of comfort. At around midnight, I decided to get ready for bed. I stood up, stretched a little, and glanced around my room, something I always do before sleeping. My posters were still on the walls, My clothes were piled on the chair the way they always were, and my bed looked inviting, soft, and untouched since morning. I remember thinking how nice it would be to sleep in for once. Even the shadows in the room felt normal, soft, fuzzy edges cast by the lamp, nothing harsh or strange. My room was familiar in every sense, like a place nothing bad could ever happen. I checked the time again on my phone. 12:03 a.m. Technically my birthday was over, and the day was settling into quiet, peaceful stillness. The kind of stillness that usually makes you feel safe. I didn't know, not even for a second, that anything was wrong. I didn't know someone had already been in the house. I didn't know someone had already been in my room. I didn't know something was waiting quietly just out of sight. At that moment I was still just Daniel. A guy ending his birthday, tired, relaxed, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. If anything, I remember feeling grateful. Grateful for the night. Grateful for the calm. Grateful for the normalcy. I had no idea that in less than a minute, that calm would disappear forever, and the night would turn into the most terrifying experience of my life. I was just about to switch off my lamp when I heard it. A tiny sound behind me. Not loud. Not sharp. Just a soft, almost delicate tap. First, I didn't even turn around. Houses make noises all the time, with settling, pipes shifting, the wind brushing the windows. But something about this sound felt too close. Like it came from inside my room, not the house itself. I paused, my hand hovering over the lamp switch. There was nothing. Just silence thick enough to press against my ears. I shook it off and exhaled, telling myself it was nothing serious. Maybe something on my desk shifted. Maybe the open window let in a sudden breeze. But when I looked at the window, the curtain wasn't moving. Not even slightly. The air that had felt refreshing minutes ago now felt heavier, warmer. Like it wasn't circulating the same way. Weird, I thought. But still nothing dangerous. I sat back down on my chair for one last scroll through my messages, but the feeling wouldn't leave. That subtle pressure in the chest, the sense of being observed. Not watched directly but noticed. Like someone's attention had settled on me. I kept glancing at my door, half expecting it to be open, even though I knew I had closed it earlier. It stayed closed, silent, ordinary. But the shadows at the bottom of the door looked different now, darker, thicker. Like the hallway light wasn't reaching the floor the same way it usually did. Another sound, this time a faint skrrt like fabric moving. I spun around quickly, but again there was nothing. Just my bed, my dresser, the quiet corners of my room. I stared at the empty space beside my closet longer than I should have. Something about it felt wrong. It wasn't anything visual, no obvious shape, no movement, no shadow out of place. It was the air around it. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Like that part of the room was colder than the rest. I swallowed hard. Still nothing dangerous. Just off. Milo, our dog, barked suddenly downstairs. A short, confused bark that stopped just as quickly as it started. Milo rarely barked at night. And never like that. It was a warning bark. A someone's here bark. My breath tightened. I stood up slowly and walked to my door, pressing my ear against it. Silence. Then creak. But it wasn't the hallway. Came from behind me again. My heart thudded once hard. I turned my head slowly, almost afraid to look, but everything in my room was exactly where it had been. My blanket still folded. My poster still slightly crooked. The pile of clothes still on the chair. Nothing out of place. So why did it feel like the room was shrinking around me? The air wasn't the same anymore either. It felt stale, like someone had been breathing in the room for too long without moving. Heavy, warm pockets of air mixed with cold ones. Subtle currents that shouldn't exist. I rubbed my arms without meaning to. Goosebumps. Not from cold, from unease. My lamp flickered once. Just once. A tiny hesitation of light, like the bulb considered going out. I stood completely still. When the light steadied again, I noticed something that made my chest tighten even more. My closet door. It was open just an inch. I couldn't remember if I had closed it earlier. I almost always did. But maybe I forgot? Maybe. I tried to convince myself of that, but unease twisted deep inside me, refusing to be quiet. I took one slow step toward it, thump. Not loud. Not violent. Just a small dull sound from inside the closet. I froze. My breath felt too loud in my ears. Every instinct screamed at me that something was wrong, deeply wrong, but still nothing had happened. There was no actual danger yet. Just sounds. Just subtle shifts. Just my imagination, right? But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it grew stronger. The sense of being watched. Of not being alone. Of the room holding its breath along with me. And for the first time that night I wished, truly wished, that I had gone to sleep earlier. I stood frozen, staring at that slightly open closet door, telling myself 100 weak excuses. It's just the house settling. I must have left it open earlier. I'm overreacting because I'm tired. But deep down, every instinct inside me whispered the same thing. Something is in there. And it's not supposed to be. I reached for the doorknob as if moving through thick syrup. The air around me felt heavier with every step. It wasn't normal heaviness, it was the kind that pushes against your skin, making your bones feel heavier like gravity suddenly doubled. My fingers touched the knob. A cold shock ran up my arm. The metal wasn't just cold. It felt wrong. Like touching something that had been in a freezer for hours. Like touching something dead. I jerked my hand back, heart pounding so hard I heard my pulse echo in my ears. Before I could step back further, the light flickered again. But this time it didn't correct itself. Instead, it dimmed enough for the shadows in the room to stretch, to move, to slide across the floor like they were being pulled toward the closet. I blinked hard once, twice. And that's when the closet door creaked open another inch. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just enough to show me it wasn't the house shifting. It was intentional. My throat tightened so much I could barely swallow. Mom. I whispered without meaning to. Is someone? The question died on my tongue. There was movement. Not big movement. Not a full figure. Just enough. A shape shifted inside. Something low, hunched, pressed into the shadows deeper than a person could hide. A faint outline, wrong in shape, too narrow in the shoulders, too elongated in the limbs. And then I saw the eyes. Two pale, milky white eyes staring out at me, unblinking. Not glowing. Not shining. Just there. Dead. Empty. Watching. Every hair on my body shot upward. My breath left me in one hot gasp. Those eyes didn't blink. They didn't adjust to the light. They didn't react. They simply watched. Like they had been watching for a long time. My chest tightened painfully. I stumbled backward so fast my heel hit the edge of my bed. My lamp flickered again, but this time it went out completely. The room fell into thick, suffocating darkness except for the moonlight leaking through the window. And in that faint silver glow, I saw something emerging from the closet. Slowly, painfully slowly. A long skeletal hand curled around the wood of the door first. The fingers were too thin, the knuckles too sharp, the nails too long. They scraped lightly against the paint as it pulled itself forward. I wanted to scream. I couldn't. My voice wouldn't come out. The thing's head tilted like it was listening to my heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. It stepped out just enough for its outline to appear in the moonlight. A hunched figure. Limb proportions all wrong. Spine arched backward like it was broken in several places. And those pale eyes locked directly onto me, unblinking, hungry but emotionless at the same time. Finally, my voice broke loose in a choked whisper. What are you? The creature's jaw shifted. Not like a human jaw. It cracked open sideways, too wide, too crooked, like the bones weren't connected the right way. A low breath exhaled from it. Not air but something colder, thicker, like the sound of wind leaking from a cave. And then it took one step toward me. A deliberate, dragging step. Its foot scraping the floorboards. Its body unfolding like a distorted shadow peeling off the closet walls. Panic slammed into me so hard I nearly fell backward. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't the house settling. This wasn't a noise I misunderstood. The thing in my closet was real. It was alive. And it was coming toward me. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I didn't plan. The moment that creature stepped toward me, dragging its two long limbs across my bedroom floor, I moved on instinct, pure terror exploding through my body like a shockwave. I lunged toward the door. The creature reacted instantly. A sharp, skittering scrape blasted behind me as it jerked forward. Faster than its twisted body should have allowed. I felt the air behind my back shift as its hand swiped through the space I'd been standing in a second earlier. I slammed into my bedroom door, grabbed the handle, twisted, locked. My heart stuttered violently. I never locked my door at night. Never. I twisted the handle again, harder, desperately. Click. It finally gave. I threw my entire weight into the door and stumbled into the hallway, nearly falling. Behind me, something thick and heavy collided with the wood. Thud, thud, thud. 3 hits. Strong hits. Hits that cracked the frame. I ran. My legs barely worked under me. I half ran, half threw myself down the hallway, my socks slipping on the hardwood floor. Every shadow looked alive. Every echo sounded like claws. When I reached the stairs, I heard the door slam open behind me. Crack. Not like a door opening. Like a door breaking. I didn't look back. I bolted down the stairs, taking 3 steps at a time, gripping the banister so hard it burned my palm. Milo barked loudly from below. Panicked, frantic, the kind of bark that meant run, not fight. I hit the bottom floor at full speed. The living room was dark, but I knew the layout by heart. I sprinted toward the front door, fumbling with the chain lock. My fingers shook violently, slipping off the metal again and again. Upstairs, a sound. Not footsteps. Something heavier. Dragging. Sliding. Descending the stairs one limb at a time. My shaking fingers finally grabbed the chain. Slid it. Almost a scar. A long nail scraped down the wall above me. It was on the stairs now. I yanked the chain free and twisted the deadbolt. The bolt refused to turn. My breath broke into choked gasps. No, no, please. Behind me, a soft thump hit the bottom step. Then another. Then a low, horrible hiss like air being forced through broken teeth. The bolt finally turned. I ripped open the door just as the creature reached the last step. Cold night air blasted my face as I sprinted out into the yard, bare feet slamming against the ground. I didn't dare look back. I just bolted toward the driveway, toward my car. My keys. Where were my keys? Pockets empty. Sweatpants, no pockets. Room, I left them upstairs. The creature stepped out onto the porch. The boards groaned under its weight. Its silhouette stretched across the grass like something inhuman, bent in ways that didn't belong to a living thing. I backed toward the street, stumbling, almost tripping. Milo suddenly burst out from behind the house, barking at the thing, teeth bared. No, Milu. I cried. The creature's head jerked toward the dog, then toward me, back to the dog. For one terrible second it paused. Then it lunged. Not at Milo, at me. I spun and sprinted across the street, nearly slipping on the pavement. A car's headlights blinded me. Horn, the driver swerved, missing me by inches. I slammed both hands on the hood. Help! Please! The creature stepped into the street behind me. Bending, crawling, contorting in sickening bursts of movement. The driver saw it. His eyes widened. Get in, he yelled. I dove into the passenger seat, slamming the door shut as the driver floored the gas. The tires screamed, the engine roared, and the car shot forward, leaving the creature shrinking in the rearview mirror. It didn't chase us. It just stood in the middle of the road, watching. Its pale eyes glowing faintly in the red wash of our taillights. Watching me leave. Watching like it wasn't done. Watching like it knew it would see me again. The world felt strangely hollow when the danger finally stopped. Or at least I thought it had. I didn't run anymore. My legs simply wouldn't move. I stood there in the cold darkness, chest sharp with every breath, ears still ringing from my own screaming heartbeat. The woods around me were silent, too silent. No wind. No movement. Not even the insects dared to make a sound, like the entire forest was holding its breath with me. For the first time since everything started, I let myself believe I might actually be safe. Just for a moment. I leaned against a tree, letting the rough bark dig into my back while I tried to steady my thoughts. My hands were still shaking, so badly I couldn't even wipe the sweat off my forehead. The air tasted metallic, like fear had a flavor, and it had sunk deep into my lungs. But nothing chased me now. No footsteps. No growling. No distorted breathing behind me. Just the soft, unnatural quiet. I forced myself to look around. The path I'd sprinted down was empty. The trees stood still, tall and harmless. The darkness wasn't moving anymore. It looked exactly like a normal forest at night. Peaceful, untouched. As if the nightmare from minutes ago had been some hallucination born from exhaustion and darkness. But I knew it wasn't. I saw it. I heard it. It touched me. I stared at the scratches on my arm, thin, jagged lines that were too deep to be from branches. They were uneven. Too deliberate. Like something with intelligence had marked me on purpose. My breathing quickened again. I kept replaying the last moments in my head. The sudden appearance, the shifting shape in the shadows, the feeling of something standing inches behind me. It all felt too vivid to dismiss. But standing here in the stillness, with no sign of danger, it felt unreal too, like the forest had swallowed every trace of what happened. That bothered me more than anything. Where were the footprints? Where were the broken branches? Where was anything to prove I hadn't lost my mind? I crouched and pressed my fingers into the dirt where I remembered nearly tripping. Nothing. The ground was smooth, undisturbed, like no one had run across it at all. My throat tightened. I turned slowly, scanning the ground for even a single sign. A track. A drag mark. A claw print. Anything. But there was nothing. All the chaos, the chase, the monster, it was like the forest had erased it. I told myself I needed to move. To get out of here. To find light, people, anything. But my body stayed frozen, caught between relief and terror. Because if there were no signs, if there were no traces, then where did it go? My eyes drifted back to the trees again. They felt wrong, too perfectly still, too neatly arranged. Like they were watching me. Not with eyes, but with presence. A quiet awareness. A shiver crawled up my spine. I took one careful step back. And that's when I noticed something I hadn't before. In the dirt behind the tree I had been leaning against. A single print. Not large. Not dramatic. But unmistakably not human. 3 long toes. One deep claw mark in the center. Pressed into the ground like it had been standing right behind me. Fresh. I didn't hear it approach. I didn't feel breathing on my neck. I didn't sense movement. But it had been there. Close enough to touch me. Close enough to decide something. My stomach dropped as I realized the truth. It didn't stop chasing me. Simply let me go. For now. I took a step back. Then froze when I heard a branch crack somewhere deeper in the trees. Soft. Slow. Intentional. Not running. Not charging. Just following. My breath hitched. I didn't know what it wanted. I didn't know why it stopped. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I didn't escape it. Still out there. Still watching. And it knows exactly where I am. The story doesn't end here.